Today's guest is Kate Bingaman-Burt. Kate's an educator, designer, illustrator, living and working in Portland, Oregon. She's going to talk about being sincere in the work you do, failed projects, and staying passionate about the things you're making. Let's get to know more about Kate Bingaman-Burt. Hi Kate, welcome to the show. Before we continue, pencil or pixel?
Well, it's not even, can I just say pen? Because
Yeah,
I don't even
sure,
really
yeah,
use
why not?
pencils. Yeah, I sometimes use pencils, but not that often. But everything I do starts with a pen, basically. So, and then I'm kind of the odd man out in my studio. I share a studio with 4 other people, and everyone now is using tablets, and there's something wrong in my brain. Like I can't get it to work the way that I can't do it. And then I also have no patience either. So I think it's a combination.
You've obviously tried it.
I bought a Cintiq last summer. I gave it to my husband, and then I downsized and got just a tablet, a regular tablet, and it is. I'm looking at it right now. It's not doing anything. So I love using pens. Yeah. So I have a smaller version of that one.
It's just sitting here. I just have it sitting here.
Yeah. But I mean, everything, everything goes, all my freelance stuff ends up having to be vectorized. So then I work in both worlds pretty well. So I feel comfortable in both, but everything really starts with pens and paper with me. So
Cool. What's your pen of choice?
It's all huge stack of Faber-Castell artist pens. I buy them by the box load. So, and then I discovered something that Faber-Castell doesn't want to say that you can do, but with the brush pens, if you get tweezers after the tip wears down, you can pull it out, and there's a whole other brand new brush tip on the other side. You just flip it. And I only just discovered that a month and a half ago, and I've been using these pens for 8 years. And so I did a whole Facebook, did you know? And oh my God. And then Faber-Castell responded back on Facebook we don't endorse this. Of course you don't. Of course you don't endorse it, because I just doubled the life of a pen. It's fantastic. So, but yeah.
That's rad. Pen hack.
It's
Sweet.
Pen hack. Yep. It's only the brush pens. You can't do it with a super fine tip or anything like that. But the brush, when you yank it out, the other side is a perfectly ready to go brush pen.
Oh, that's too
And you just need a 99-cent pair of tweezers so your fingers don't get dirty, and you are good to go. You don't even have to spend 99 cents if you don't care if your fingers get dirty. So it's, I highly endorse it. It works just fine.
Yeah, it's too bad you can't do that to a micron pen.
Yeah, you can't do that. No, that's the micron pen nibs are the same as the super fine nibs, and so you can't. There's no pulling and flipping on those whatsoever. Yeah. So that's my pen hack. That's the thing I'm most excited about right now.
And thank you for sharing that. That's amazing.
I just only wish I had known this years ago, basically. So
Yeah.
oh well,
Yeah.
hindsight. Whatever.
It's all right. Better now than never, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So, Kate, I've given a brief introduction, but can you tell us more about what you do and how you got where you are today?
I am currently an associate professor of graphic design at Portland State University, and I'm also a freelance illustrator, and I also I'm on the board of directors for Design Week Portland, which is a really big fun event that happens every year in Portland. So I feel
Which is coming up soon.
Yeah, October 4th through the 11th, and so I'm engaged with school stuff, engaged with freelance stuff, and then also I find it really important to help events happen both at the community level and the school level too that surround design and design education and illustration and things like that too. And then I also I travel to different schools during the school year and talk with students and do workshops. And I do that as much as I can, but I can't be gone too much from my current crop of students. I should be here. So I usually leave about once or twice a term, and then no more, because then I would be an absentee teacher, and I don't want to be that.
Very cool. So let's talk about before your career in the university. How did you get into design and illustration? How did it all start?
Well, I didn't really get into illustration until about 8 years ago. And really, I thought, I grew up with parents that were super supportive of the arts, and I was really lucky in that regard. They both were weavers, and my grandparents were illustrators, and so you know, making stuff with your hands was really encouraged. I feel very lucky about that, but like any typical kid, I was super jerky, and I didn't really want to draw, and I was definitely more I wanted to go to journalism school, and I wanted to play my flute, and I mean, I was still like, I still did creative stuff, but I wasn't like an art club kid or anything like that. But I went to college, and I was a mass communications major, and discovered I didn't really like that. And then I switched, and I was an English major, and I loved that. I feel like a lot of my argumentative skills and my critical thinking skills came from my English classes, which have been super helpful and just have benefited me in multiple ways. And then I ended up taking a graphic design class, my almost towards the end of my junior year in college. And I was really fortunate to have a really energetic professor who kind of made me look at design in a different way. And I remember that now, because when you are a student, it's so easy to think of design as just being, you know, logos and that's it. And so I always try to remember, and again, one of the most important things to me as an educator for my students is to expose them to all the different ways that you can work with design and illustration and strategy and experience design, and however you want to be working within the field of design, is to expose them to all the different ways and to find ways that you click with, because I think it's really easy, and of course it is, to think that design is just one thing. So, and then from there, I just started doing design work. I was working at a gift company in Omaha, Nebraska. I did their catalogs and product design, and I was also their salesperson, and it was just kind of funny. But through going all these different trade shows and just being kind of one of their main salespeople, I started really observing consumer trends and how people responded to objects and goods, and really started studying this crazy and fascinating world of consumption. And I realized I wanted to make work about the things that we buy and the relationships that we have to objects. And then that's when I went to graduate school, and I went to grad school so I could have that gift of time to focus on what it is that I wanted to investigate and study. And I just started doing my obsessive consumption projects about 12 years ago, really. And then drawing came through my daily drawing project, which came out of my credit card drawing project, which was a punishment for me to draw all my credit card statements until they were paid off. And I picked drawing as the medium because I was like the worst at drawing, and I hated drawing, and I felt really uncomfortable with drawing. But through that process, I discovered I actually really liked making marks and lines, and that's why I started the daily drawing project, the daily purchase drawing project, and so I could draw something other than my credit card statements. And after about a year of publishing my daily drawings online is when people started approaching me for freelance jobs for illustration. And that was about 8 years ago, and I've been drawing ever since.
Amazing. That's amazing.
So,
you said you started being approached about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
To start doing freelance work.
Yeah. Yeah, because at that point I was before I did illustration work, I was doing more kind of gallery work, photo work, installation work about consumption, but through the lens of graphic design, but yet the output ended up being in gallery spaces and storefronts and installation work. And because I worked within a university system, that gave me the freedom to work in that way. And I had thought, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm a professor, and I'm going to make work about, you know, consumption and about the role that graphic design plays within consumption. But again, like the illustration side of it all was just completely kind of unexpected, but I'm so happy that's the way it turned out, because I feel that by actively participating in, you know, the illustration and design world, that makes me such a better resource for my students, because I can share my experiences.
Absolutely.
I can talk about, you know, anything from contracts, pricing, how to be a freelancer, to reaching out to, you know, communicate. Like, I'm way more of an active participant in the world that they want to be participating in. Definitely. Rather than just kind of making work that talks about the world they're participating in. Yeah. I feel like I'm able to do both. And so it worked out really well in my favor. and hopefully the students benefit from it too. So
I really do think and believe that in order to teach, it's always best to teach based on your experience. So yeah. You have a ton of experience with the design world. You have a ton of experience with, you know, all the ups and downs. And when a student has a question, you don't just refer back to a book or something that you just kind of learned.
Listen to what I did, and exactly. I screwed up, and I don't want you to screw up. So,
yeah. And even though it may not apply to directly to what they're going through or what they might potentially go through, there's still something about it that, you know, they could learn and apply later on, which is awesome.
Absolutely. Because I mean, it's not everybody's experiences with things are different, and I think that just the more you talk to different people and about how they navigate, you know, through their kind of design life, I feel like students are able to kind of pick out ways that they want to navigate through their own design and illustration life. Because again, there's not that magical, you know, top 10 list of things that you should do and didn't do. Like those aren't one size fits all. Like, you have to kind of figure out what works best for you. And the way that you do that is just through looking and talking and asking questions and just kind of digging deep yourself to figure out a code that you can follow too. So, you know, I'm like, I always preface, I'm like, well, this is my experience and this is what I did, but it might not work for you, but it might work for you. I don't know. So
yeah, totally. So you've talked a bit about your consumption project. You had a daily drawing project that lasted. How long did it last?
8 years. Yeah, it was 8 years on February 5th, 2014. So it just ended this year, about 6 months ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so because of this daily drawing project and all the consumption projects you had, all the drawing projects you've created for yourself, they have evolved, and they have evolved into something greater. I think, you know, when I think about daily projects that people have today, or even weekly, like I have this is my weekly project, right? So
it's your thing. It's your, you know, this is what I do every single week.
But you know what, Kate, I refer back to your project. I refer back to those daily drawings, and, you know, you've been consistent, and you said for 8 years. Yeah. In my mind, I thought, okay, well, she did it maybe for 5-6 years tops. Well, 8 years. That's incredible. That's huge.
Thanks.
But, you know, because of that, you know, you've had opportunities to do things like, you know, publish a book based on these drawings. And I know a lot of artists and designers might have the question of, you know, how can they put their work out there? How can they really expand what they do? And can you touch a little bit about? Can you tell us about how that went about, how you were able to publish a book, how you started getting these opportunities. I mean, if you could just give us a few examples of how your project helped.
I think one of the core things is to, like, before you start a project, you want to ask yourself, am I doing this because I think that this is going to get me more work, or am I doing this because I think I'm going to get a book deal, or am I doing this because if I don't do it, I'm going to be physically ill? Like, I feel like you have to kind of, it has to be sincere, and it has to come from a sincere place, because people can sense that. When I started this project, it wasn't because I was like, I'm going to start an illustration career. Oh, I'm going to get a book deal from it. It was like, it just seemed like it was part of my natural progression of me doing what I had been doing for several years prior to that. It's just investigating this world of objects and how we engage with our stuff, basically. And so I feel like I naively was coming from that perspective, where it's just like, I'm just gonna put this on my blog, and I'm just gonna kind of I'm gonna make zines out of this too. This will be fun to send to people, just to share. And so, but what happened again, I think the reason why, like, my credit card project was a monthly project, and that went on for a couple years. And then the project before that was where I photo documented all of my objects and everything that I purchased, basically, for 28 months. But that was like in 2002, so it was pretty early on. I think the reason why the daily drawing one kind of resonated a little bit more is that it was every single day. And repetition is a powerful thing. And I think a commitment to repetition kind of demonstrates that you're not screwing around, basically. But and then I think just through that power of repetition it shows that you can commit to a project. It shows that you have follow through and execution. When I was approached by Princeton Architectural Press about the book, I had already worked on a previous book through Princeton Architectural Press, which was called Handmade Nation. And so they became familiar with my work through that book. And I think they knew that I wasn't a horrible person to work with. And they got to know my work through that way. So it wasn't, they kind of already knew of me previously. So it wasn't necessarily like, who's this girl? You know, I had already been kind of working with them for a couple years. And then when they invited me to send the pitch, I already had like a couple years worth of zines that were already made up that I could just like put in this box and send to them. And so I had already kind of demonstrated a proof of concept without even realizing that I was, had any concept to prove, basically. So it wasn't like I had to assemble this book or anything. I was already naturally doing. Again, this is like, it just, I feel like I was just kind of lucky. It kind of worked out that way. But again, I think it's really important to, like, whenever you do daily projects or weekly projects or monthly projects, is that you also, you share it with people too. I think that holds a level of accountability as well, where not only you're sharing what you do, like every single project I've done has had a sharing component to it. Not because I think people are so interested in what I'm doing, but I work really good when I tell somebody that I'm going to do something, even if they don't care if I'm going to do it or not. Like I said, I told so-and-so that I'm going to do this, so I better do it. And they're like, what are you doing? But yeah, so it's how my brain works, I guess. And so, and then a lot of projects, don't feel bad if your projects don't stick. Yeah. That's fine. I think it's sometimes it gets frustrating when you start a project and you can just kind of feel sometimes like, oh, I don't think this has got legs. I'm going to stop. Or don't set yourself up for something where you're like, I'm going to do this for an entire year. Maybe it only needs to happen for a month. Maybe it only needs to happen for 2 weeks. It's just, you're setting yourself up for kind of a little bit of frustration if you start a project and you give yourself this, like, I'm doing it for a year. I'm telling everyone I'm doing it for a year. And then you're into it like week 1 and you're like, I think I can do this for about a month, you know? And that's fine, because if you had set the initial goal of a month, then that would have been a success. So I don't know, like it's all these little ways to kind of trick your brain.
No, that's great. And did you ever have those moments when you sort of thought, even with these projects that did take off, did you ever think, man, I don't want to do this anymore? Maybe not that. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing. Why am I doing this?
All the time. Totally, all the time. Like with the credit card statement project, I hated that project, but there was a goal for that, is that I really screwed up, and I'm going to do this until they're paid off, until the cards are paid off. Like this is what I'm doing. This is, you know, like it doesn't matter if you hate this, Kate. This is what you're doing. And really, I mean, it was fine. I was drawing. It wasn't like I was like digging ditches or anything like that. I was drawing, you know. So, oh, big deal. But yeah, I mean, there was times that I wish I was doing something else, but a lot of times it was like, I'm also happy that I don't have credit card debt anymore too, you know? I'm also happy that this led to, you know, my daily drawing project, because I'm a firm believer that you think about, at least for me, like all of my thinking happens through the making part, and I will start making something and I won't really know where it's going, but I can think about it as I'm making. And I don't do good with just thinking, and not doing, because that's also pretty unsatisfying, at least for me. And man, and I tell my students this too, it's so much better to like make a huge pile of crap and have like 2% of that pile of crap be something good. And then you can like add that, and the next pile of crap is going to be better. And you just got to keep making piles. That's a really horrible visual that I said. You got to keep making piles of crap.
Of manure.
But I mean, you're eventually you're gonna scale that crap mountain, and you're gonna get to a good place, you know. So, but I mean, I quit the daily drawing project. I didn't know how long that was gonna last. And I told myself that, I mean, there were a couple of times during the project where I was like, oh, maybe I'll stop. Maybe this is keeping me from doing other things. But it finally, like, it became really clear to me, like around in December, where I was kind of like, I think I'm going to stop this. And I had a really good conversation with my friend Josh Berger, who told me that, you know, sometimes it's in order to start things, you have to quit things, or in order, it was way more eloquent than what I just said. But essentially it was like, sometimes in order to start new things, you've got to dump old things. And I was like, I like that. That's good. And that, I felt like that was kind of a good permission giver for me to not feel bad about, I mean, I think that's been said in so many different, like every new door is like a window. I don't know. It was like, now I'm just like completely making up phrases.
Come on, throw out the analogies. Let's do this.
I know. I want some like really screwed up quote posters from some of the things that I'm saying. Like, that makes no sense. But damn, if that doesn't look good in type, I'm going to hang that on my office wall, and it's going to motivate me, but I don't know what it means. So, yeah. Startup posters. I'm coming up with them. No. But yeah, so that I feel like I was able to kind of quit that big project, because that was kind of scary. And also, I didn't really know what that next project was going to be that was going to fill that space, which is the first time I've done that in a long, long time, because usually these projects run into each other. But it was just kind of nice to be like, okay, I'm done with that. And I'm actually having a solo show at an agency here in town that's going to have all 8 years of drawings. And it's going to be kind of like this last, kind of like, I would say, end to that project, have like a big party. It's going to be up for 3 months, and I'm going to have new work in the mix too. But that's going to be like, okay, we're closing the door on that. It's good.
When's the date of the when's the opening?
Yeah, the opening is September 4th, and it's going to be up for 3 months in Portland. Yeah, it's going to be up for 3 months in Portland, so I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm going to do a kind of a calendar of events that will happen during those 3 months too, or either people can come in and I'll draw objects that they've stolen, or we'll have like a zine workshop, or just kind of turn that space into more of like a making experimental space too, based around, I want to have like a big, like I might even have like a yard sale happen within the space, or I don't know, like I'm pretty excited to think about what we can do within that space. So I should be thinking about it a little bit more.
It'll come together. It'll come together. It'll be fine.
It's all good.
I'm gonna. A lot of people say this. Switch gears. I'm gonna switch gears
Okay.
here.
Let's do it.
So you teach at Portland State University. Did you always want to be a teacher?
No, I didn't actually. I ended up, the first experience that I had, I don't know, with teaching, helping, mentoring, whatever. I worked in a writing center when I was in college, and I was just a reader response person with papers, and I really enjoyed it. Like at that point, it wasn't like, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be a teacher. It was just like, this is really fun, and I like it that it's my campus job and I'm getting paid for it. And then when I went to grad school, my graduate advisor, he was like, I'm going to have you teach a bunch. And I was like, okay, well, see what happens. And I really liked it. And I liked it more than I thought I would. And when it was getting time to, figure out what I was going to do after grad school, I'm like, well, I'm going to apply for some jobs. And I've just been teaching since then. So I just kind of was open to it, and I liked it. So, yeah.
You weren't living in Portland.
No.
This whole time. So what made you decide to make the jump and go to Portland? Besides, obviously there was this position that was available, right? At the university. But was it a tough decision? Was it hard to even go from originally?
I went to grad school. I'm from the Midwest, basically. Like I was born in Wisconsin, and I grew up in Missouri, went to grad school in Nebraska, like super Midwest. And then my first teaching job was at Mississippi State University, and I was there for 4 years. And it was a hard decision because Mississippi is a very different culture than Portland. But there are parts and places of the South that are some of my most favorite places to be. Like, I feel like the sun just shines differently. Like there's just something that's so wonderful about the Southeast. I really love it. And I really loved the university at Mississippi. I loved the department that I was in. But I was also in a position where I was about to go up for tenure at Mississippi State. And I just felt like there was other experiences that I wanted to try. Like, I didn't want that to be just it, And I was still, I was 30 when I accepted the job at PSU. And so at that point at Mississippi, I was 30. I was like, because again, once you get tenure, it's kind of hard to, at least in academia, it's tough to continue to apply for positions that are at the associate level because they want to hire you at the assistant level. It gets weird.
Yeah,
and so it was at that time when this position became open at Portland State. And I had already, because of the internet, I already had lots of good contacts and people that I had just known from the online world. I knew that they lived in Portland. And actually my studio mate, Jason Sturgill, I shared a table with him at the Icon Roadshow.
Yep.
He was the one who told me about the job at Portland State.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I've known Jason for a long time, and it's just from the internet, essentially. And what I like so much about so many of those initial internet friendships is that they have turned into, like, I mean, for the case of Jason, like lifelong, real life friendship. And so that's pretty cool. And Clifton, my husband, and I, we had decided too that if we were going to move, it was going to be to a city that we wanted to stay in for a while or for a long time. And in this case, I really feel like Clifton and I are here for good, because I just got tenure.
Nice.
We just
Congratulations.
thank you. We just had an offer accepted on a house, which is crazy.
Excellent.
And so it's like, okay, Portland, let's do this. But yeah, so I'm starting year 7 at PSU in the
Very
fall.
cool.
And I cannot believe that it's been 7 years, or I'm starting 7 years. Like it went so fast. It went so fast. So fast.
It's very, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
It flies when you're having fun. What can I
Oh
say?
my God, it's been crazy. And the teaching at PSU has been amazing. And there's a really wonderful, again, I was really sad to leave Mississippi State. But there's been so many great opportunities at PSU, and the faculty at PSU are amazing. And it's so nice to be able to, we have quite a few adjuncts in the graphic design program, and it's so nice to be able to have this roster of incredibly active designers and illustrators want to come and teach a class, every single year. And again, like just bringing their experiences to the classroom. And I mean, being an adjunct professor, if that's your only thing, is a terrible way to be employed. But I feel good, at least on the graphic design side, that our adjunct professors also have active freelance, careers and agencies and job things and stuff like that. So I don't feel like it's quite as, they still should be paid more. Don't even get me started. The adjunct situation in the U.S. education system is atrocious. But we have wonderful adjuncts here and wonderful full-time faculty too. So it's great.
It just creates a really, really nice culture at the school.
Yeah, and we really advocate that the students get involved with the Portland design culture too, and that it shouldn't be such a divide of like, oh, I'm a student. I don't like that whole term, oh, when you get out into the real world. Like, why can't you have those real world experiences now? Why are we waiting for some reason? We don't need to wait. Get internships, job shadow, set up appointments, talk to people. Like, let's do this now. Don't wait for this real world, whatever that is, to happen for you to experience that stuff.
You got to make you have to make your opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm going to change it up again.
Okay.
Again. Did I say that
Let's switch
twice?
some gears.
It's been a while since I've asked this question. You've touched a little bit on this, on failure. Can you tell us of a specific moment or time or project that you worked on that didn't go the way you thought it would go? What happened and how did it work out in the end?
Oh my gosh. I have one that I completely just really blew it on. It was the first job that I have basically, like I was contacted to do this book that was on fashion, and I thought, I don't know, I did this whole thing where I'm like, yes, I can do this. I can completely do this book. Didn't matter that I had a bunch of other things that I needed to do. I really wanted to do this book. This was going to be really fun. It was going to have stickers, and it was like going to have all these like color pages and things like that. But I bit off way too much. Like I couldn't manage the amount of things I had said yes to. And and I had to cut something, and the thing I had to cut was, and we had gotten pretty far along in this process too, and I just didn't see how this was going to resolve. Like, I had to like return money. It was just, and I was just completely embarrassed because I really messed up what I thought I could do, basically. But you know what? I'm fine. It was fine. You know, I remember at that moment thinking that this is horrible. This is over. But what I learned from that is like, oh, you can say no to things and it's actually okay. And you would have been better off if you had said no before this project had even begun, you know? And I think what I learned, I learned that it's okay to say no, because sometimes if you don't say no, it's going to create way more problems down the road, because this girl doesn't know how to manage her time sometimes. Yeah.
So it all worked out in the end.
One of many mess ups that I have done over the years. That's just a little one.
No, it's a really good one to share, because that does tend to happen a lot. And more and more designers, you know, especially online, are saying that it's probably best to say no more often.
But I just feel like such an a-hole whenever I do it. But, you know, you end up looking like an a-hole when you say yes to too much stuff too. So I guess I'm an a-hole either way. But I know it's hard. It's hard because you also want to be seen as someone who could like do it all too.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can't, and that's okay. I just don't believe what I said. I just want to say that. Because I'm just like, no, you can do it all.
Kate, I always ask this question too. Do you have, before we wrap it up here, I want to ask you if there are any books that you recommend for illustrators, artists, designers?
Yeah, actually, I don't know how... I'm going back. So one of a really excellent kind of nonfiction essayist, Anne Lamont, she has a book called Bird by Bird.
Ah, yeah.
And I remember that having a really big impact on me when I was writing. And I know it's super applicable for non-writing too, just kind of creative process in general and things like that. That one, I feel like that's one that I go back to quite a bit. And then also anything by Moira Coleman. I love her so much. She's so great. Yeah, she's fantastic. And one of my, let me think, I have a bunch of Saul Steinberg books that I get off of eBay or whenever I see them, and I just love flipping through them. As far as like just like visual eye candy, he does an amazing amount with just a line. It can be so simple, but then also so decorative and so crazy beautiful too. So, but yeah, that's off the top of my head. But I end up reading I don't really read a lot of stuff about design. Like I think about what's on my end table right now. I have a bunch of, I love reading historical nonfiction stuff. I love journalist kind of, I have a bunch of Joan Didion books on my bedside table right now. I read a crap ton of Linda Berry. I absolutely love her. I'm either reading like Truman Capote, Joan Didion, or I'm reading graphic novels. Like that's kind of like the my two go-tos basically. Like that's how I read for fun. It's like, oh, let's read this. I've got like, I love the all Chris Ware stuff. I love Charles Burns stuff. I love Adrienne Tomaine. Like I just absolutely, Lisa Hannawalt has a book that came out this year called My Dirty Dumb Eyes, and it is so freaking great. So it's again, like it's all like kind of like graphic novel stuff that has just, it's a little bit effed up. I love that. or I'm reading about Joan Didion reporting on the 1988 presidential elections. You know, it's either way.
Very cool.
That's how I like to relax.
That's a nice variety. I like that.
Thanks.
It's very nice. You can find this and everything we talked about here today on pencilvspixel.com. That's pencilvspixel.com/Kate Bingaman-Burt. So we're gonna shorten it up a bit for everyone. So Kate Bingaman-Burt. pencilvspixel.com/Kate Bingaman-Burt. Kate, what exciting things are you working on that you could talk about, of course?
Oh, yes. Yes. What am I working on right now? I just finished up. I just went to San Francisco to work with IDEO. That's been like my longest term relationship with a team on a project. I do a lot of work with IDEO for the national campaign for birth control awareness. And they have every November, end of October, they have something that's called Thanks Birth Control Day. And so I just finished up a bunch of illustrations for social media, and then also me and this awesome team that I've done a bunch of illustrations and animations with for the last 5 years. We just did another, dare I call it, I think it's a musical about birth control.
Huh. That's interesting.
And so that's going to be coming out. It's all like, it's crazy ridiculous. It's inspired. I put a mood board together of all of these like TV news show graphics from the 1970s, early 1980s, like kids show openings from the 1970s, like sitcom openings from early 1980s. And so it has a very kind of like, and also like 1950s over the top musicals. And that's like, those were our muses essentially. And we put together this really over the top animation about thanking birth control for all the things that it does. And so that was one big client project that we're almost finished with. I have an editorial project that I'm working on for Real Simple magazine that I'm going to be working with Real Simple is great because we've been doing this where basically I kind of draw on non-traditional materials and then I like send it to them and then they have their photographer make it look beautiful. But I'm basically doing an editorial illustration on a roll of paper towels and then I'm going to be sending it away for them to make it look pretty. And then I have the show that I'm going to be putting together. So those are my immediate. Oh, and I have to put together, I'm talking at the Portland Art Museum next week about Gary Winogrand, and so I have to put that together. So
awesome.
I don't know when that's going to happen, but it's going to be fun. I love Gary Winogrand. He's one of my favorite photographers. So it'll just be like a love letter to Gary Winogrand, I guess. So we'll see what happens. Very
cool. Okay, where can we find you online, and how can people reach out to you?
My name is my website, katebingamanburt.com. So, and if you want to know more about the graphic design program at Portland State University, it's psu.gd. And then if you're interested in Design Week Portland, it's just designweekportland.com. So those are the three main URLs in my life.
Awesome. And we could find all of that on pencilvspixel.com/Kate Bingaman-Burt. We'll make sure to have those in the show notes. Kate, thank you so much for.
Oh, you're welcome.
I appreciate your time. And
thank you.
Thank you for providing so much valuable information, so much good, insight, and everything you've gone through. This is great.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you everyone for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.